motivation must that be for John Wall moving forward?
Well, it means a lot, Matt. I mean, John Wall is someone who I think loved D.C., loved the Wizards. That was all he's known for his entire NBA career. And obviously, getting hurt and having those setbacks and working hard, fighting to get back and really save your career and get back to the level that he aspires to. I'm sure it was, incredibly damaging and a blow to his pride and his ego. And as athletes, you look for sources of motivation. And so for him, obviously, he said it was personal, but he wants to show and prove that not only to the Wizards fans, but, to all the NBA, that he still has a lot left in the tank. And I think, in addition to Kevin Durant, who, has come out from his injury and been just sensational, Wall, who I think relies more on his athleticism, as Candace said earlier, his speed, getting out in the open court, like that's his game. And he looks really good. I mean, his step, his getting to the rim, turning the corner on folks, being able to absorb contact and finish. You're seeing that from him. And as he continues to put together days, weeks, months of health, I think his basketball will get better and better. And so he's also in an interesting situation. I mean, Houston, you get through the Harden situation. Now they can turn the corner. Gordon starting to find his way. Oladipo. You're seeing these guys are all able to coexist and thrive together. And, they're going to try to make a push here. And, the West is wild and crazy, but right now they're one game out of the playoffs and build some momentum as a core group and try to be in that conversation in the playoff picture when it's all said and done.
And Candace, he said something else interesting at the top of that interview about guys wanting to be there, as in Houston. This is true for any room you're in life, right? The dynamic changes when people are happy to be there. And certainly it's true in sports as well. What kind of a difference can it make in a locker room, in practice, on a plane, and translate into a game when everybody's simpatico and happy to be part of the same team?
Well, there were lots of underlying meanings and shots fired in that conversation, in that little snippet. I definitely, my ears perked up when I heard guys wanting to be there. And this is a real thing. Energy is real. Culture is real. Wanting to be there is real. And with that being said, the idea of John Wall coming off an injury and wanting to prove himself again, that might not mean, and I don't think anybody has Houston Rockets competing for a championship this year. So I do think that, it does change the way some guys may approach the season. And saying that in James Harden, he wants to compete for a championship. John Wall, at this point in time, he wants to be in Houston. And that's a good sign. Their goals might not be championship, but it might be making the playoffs. And that is where they're at right now. And so I think that, John Wall is getting his legs back underneath him, like you said, but it is a real thing to see him compete and play. And I'm honestly anxious to know, Grant, what are the emotions going back to play a former team? Because there's got to be a lot of emotions, motivation, and thought going back playing against a team you played for your entire career.
Yeah, Candace, I mean, you've obviously been with the same team, and that's such a luxury. I mean, I think there's a lot of emotions. You want to show, you want to prove to yourself, you want to beat them. There's a lot that's going through, and being able to control those emotions and go out and concentrate and play is of the utmost importance. But it's tough. You are part of that team, that locker room, that was part of your routine, and then all of a sudden, you're somewhere else, and you're going back there. It's just a mixed bag of emotions. It's really hard to sort of explain, but it's something that's very real. And I think naturally you have a desire to show your teammates, the organization, your old coaches, everyone, that they're missing you, and that they want, that you still have it, or, whatever the reason why that you left, you still want to stick it to them. And so I understand. I think players who've been in that situation before, Candace, understand where John Wall is coming from. John Wall wanted to end his career in Washington. He wanted to do what you've done, and you've been fortunate to do, Candace. And so you could tell that he's still hurt, still some pain there. But for him, he's been able to channel that and use that constructively and positively, and it's shown in his play, this far in the season.
By the way, speaking of players who some thought might be done, DeMarcus Cousins with back-to-back double-doubles for the Houston Rockets. He had 19 and 11 tonight, and the Rockets have now won 3 in a row. We'll be back with more Game Time after the break. First, though, Knicks led in Salt Lake by as many as 15 in the first half. Utah erased all of that. Mike Conley with the bucket there. He's got 14. They would eventually tie the game. Knicks still hanging around. Julius Randle putting up numbers this season. Randle with 14. The Knicks lead. We welcome folks in for Game Time Live presented by Kia. Grant Hill will rejoin us at some point. I think we're having a 2020-like technical issue with Grant at the moment. It's 2021.
He's watching Duke basketball. It's okay. We're on to you, Grant. You're watching Duke.
That's right. Should be resolved any moment now. But those lessons could apply to this game as well because Trey had a fairly quiet first half. The Hawks as a team began just 1 of 7 from three-point range. I'm impressed by his game management and the improvement on that, and in just as much as the 30-foot three-pointers that occasionally drop.
I'm very impressed with his jump from last year to this year. I know that the talent has changed around him this year, and the expectations have changed as well. When you're entering into your third season, it's no longer okay to just put up gaudy numbers and take an L. Now the expectation is to win, and with that comes learning to manage games. With that comes being more confident in your decision-making with the ball. And you're seeing Trey, obviously, when he walks into the gym, he's in range, and teams know that. And defenses are going to scheme against that. In the first half, the game of basketball is about adjustments. The first half, they were making things difficult for Trey. You go in at halftime, you look at the way that they're playing you, and you come out and you make the adjustment. And that's what Atlanta did, and that's what Trey did. And they're going to continue to have that this season in order to continue on that path of trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, if you're just with us, the Clippers were basically taking away the three from Trey Young in the first half. He didn't even attempt one until just over 2 minutes left in that first half, wound up hitting 3 of 7. You also have to have teammates who can make shots when you're double teamed, and that happened late in the game. They double teamed Trey, took it out of his hands. It swung a couple of times to Kevin Huerter, who hit a 3 and made it an 8-point game.
Yes, it is about making that extra pass. And as you get older and more mature in the game, a lot of the offense, and it still rests on Trey's shoulders, but it also, when you sometimes get your teammates going, then the defense has to collapse and relax and respect them as well, and it makes it easier for you. And to see Huerter, we know he's an amazing shooter. To knock down that 3, I think it was able to kind of open things up for Atlanta. And especially you're hitting the 3 ball, you're able to get to the paint better, kind of like what affects what, defense or offense? It's the same thing. When you drive the ball, you're going to get better 3-point looks. When you knock it down from outside, you're going to get better shots at the basket.
730-point game of the season for Trey Young. They're 5-2 in those games. Hawks did a lot of good things. I know Kawhi Leonard and Paul George weren't on the floor for the Clippers tonight, so you take advantage of the schedule in front of you. But the Hawks did a number of good things in terms of game management, in terms of eventually hitting shots, because it was a slow start for both teams offensively, and on the defensive end, where they are much improved, vastly improved over last season, including 9 blocks.
Well, a lot of people don't take the stat of 19 rebounds for Clint Capella as defense. And to me, in order to close out a possession, you have to get the defensive board. And so his defensive rebounding, and honestly, his activity, whether it's blocking shots, whether it's altering shots, whether it's coming up with the rebound, Clint Capella is really impacting the Hawks on that end of the floor. And thus, it's impacting it on the offensive end because they're able to get out in transition and they're rewarding the big men. And with that, it is fun to play with a guy like Trey Young that is able to find you on the offensive end. So yes, the Hawks are doing an outstanding job. Obviously, you can only play the people that are in front of you. Paul George and Kawhi did not play, but the Hawks did not let that affect their